Hi knitters, this is Mindy of MinuetKnit here with my Frabjous Fibers and Wonderland Yarns March Hare. It's a worsted yarn and this colorway is Cherry Tarts. Today I am going to show you how to work a Continental purl stitch. I have another video which explains the differences between Continental knitting and English knitting, but for the short version for this video, Continental knitting is done with the yarn being managed in your left hand. English knitting is when you have your yarn in your right. There's a lot of other things to know about it, pros and cons and all these different little nuances. But for today, I'm going to keep it simple and I'm going to show you how to purl Continental. So first of all, I'm working with a little swatch. So you can see I have these bigger stitches on the end. I like to do this just to help my swatch lay flat. So I'm going to slip the first stitch, and that's what creates these more open stitches and allows me to look at my work better at the end. It won't curl up. So now with my purling Continental, and there's more than one right way to do this, I'm going to show you a few ways I end up managing my yarn. You're going to go into your stitch from the right side to the left in front of your needle. Make sure that your yarn is forward. If your yarn is in back of your needles, such as this, you are going to have no yarn to work with when you want to purl. So make sure that yarn is to the back of your work. And we're going to wrap our yarn. I like to wrap it around my pointer finger. And I'm going to go ahead and go in from the right. And then I like to use my thumb to then drop the yarn down over the needle as I push it through to the back. Then I pull that stitch off the left needle, and there's my first purl. So let me show you that again. I go in from the right, down over the needle, out the back, take the stitch off. Now, when I start knitting quickly on my own, I find that a lot of times I end up wrapping my yarn around my thumb as well. The reason being is if my yarn is way, way up in the air when I'm trying to purl, it's pulling the stitch open every single time, and I want my gauge in my stitch to be consistent. So a lot of times, just give it a little wrap around my thumb, go ahead and pull that through. It gives me a little more control of my yarn, and it keeps my working yarn close to the height of my needle. Up and over, and off. Over, through, off. So I'm moving kind of quick there. Let me slow this down again. I'm going to go ahead, and here's, if you don't want to wrap it around your thumb, you still might want to utilize your thumb to push that yarn down over the needle, then slide that stitch off. So into the stitch, around the needle, out the back, slide it off. And as you'll see, the great thing about this technique is that my stitches and my yarn are all made with very little motions. When you are knitting English, your hand has to be up and around that needle. It's a movement of your whole hand, wrist, arm, shoulder. I find this to be a much more gentle technique that does not cause strain. So down to the last few stitches here, I go ahead, push that down, or if I'm on a roll, I tend to wrap around my thumb, go ahead and drop that down, through, off. And there you have it. That's your Continental purls. Happy knitting, everyone!